What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Haven't done a video in 5 days, but today was really the only day where there was an update in the charts to talk about. In the last video, we talked about a bullish dip, and Bitcoin has now bounced. Today, we had the CPI report come out. It came in hotter than expected, but it's still lower than December, so we're actually ticking down in inflation, but not down as fast as economists would have either expected or liked. Today, the CPI came in at 6.4%. December was 6.5%, lower than December, but hotter than expected. Today, the reaction in the stock market was pretty neutral. The S&P closed basically at the open, so we had a little bit of ups and downs, but we closed flat. Bitcoin today, on the other hand, is actually up almost 3%. What I'm seeing right now is that Bitcoin is bouncing off of the pre-FTX collapse top right there. That is the exact zone that we're now bouncing off of, but it also coincides with the macro downward sloping resistance, the year-long resistance. Both of those converged together right at this point where we bounced. So Bitcoin bounced right where it needed to, potentially confirming that it is maybe a bullish dip, right? I know people thought that that sounded kind of ridiculous, but the real key here is that if we're going to be confirming that we're actually breaking into a macro bullish pivot above the resistance line, what you need to see is higher lows, right? We have the largest falling wedge in Bitcoin history, and possibly right now we are forming a higher low. So the difference here, and the reason why I see it as being pretty good, pretty bullish, is that, you know, if we had actually broken below that macro resistance and snapped below it, that would be like destructive price action. But because we're building support on previous resistance, very basic stuff, that is constructive. And now what we need to see is just the continuation of higher lows, and that would be an uptrend. Now, there's a possibility that I'm looking at here. It's very likely that this daily is going to close, you know, with a higher low confirmed now. But if we do start to create lower highs and we hit that support again, this could put us in a descending triangle and yet another test of the macro resistance as new support again, but at a lower level. And at that point, everything below 21,500 would really just be considered an accumulation zone. So this is the one sort of somewhat bearish, but still kind of bullish scenario where we get lower highs, descending triangle, break down, test the macro resistance as new support, and then see further accumulation from the market at those lower levels before continuing up later. So that's one scenario. And the other scenario is that things just get more bullish than people expect, and we end up breaking out sooner rather than later. Now, what we also want to see, maybe I should just use the Coinbase chart. Coinbase's volume has always been the most reliable place for me to actually measure volume and catch volume signatures. And so let's go back to the daily chart. What we want to see to confirm that this is really a breakout, what we need to see is volume confirmation, guys. So we have a lower high trajectory in the amount of volume. And if this was going to be like a real bullish macro pivot, and let's say the price is coming up, maybe we break out again, I want to see the volume signature break above that. I want to see the volume change its trend, because right now we're just in a decline in volume. The trend for volume is still down, actually. And to get full confirmation that this is a true trend pivot, you know, we have a higher low now, I want to see the volume here snap up above this volume down trend line. And to me, that would give me a lot more confidence to think that things are really changing, and that would probably give us a lot of momentum for this trend shift. I mean, looking at this chart, it's pretty clear here what's happening. It's a bullish macro pivot as long as we hold this resistance line. A lot of people out there right now are very opinionated, but you know, the chart speaks for itself. We have a year-long downtrend, and we're building support upon it now. So even if Bitcoin was to do that possible bearish descending triangle, this is the weekly chart, if we do actually break down, as long as we hold that macro resistance as new support, technically Bitcoin could have multiple tests to the downside in testing that macro resistance and still maintain bullish posture, right? And at that point, if the chart ended up looking something like this, let's say we actually have another downside test, to me, that's still pretty bullish, because that would be an inverse head and shoulders pattern, and another macro bullish pattern would be showing up on the chart. So, I mean, generally, I'm pretty bullish. I see a lot of scenarios here. I see it's just the probability of us flipping into a more macro bullish trend is higher than a bearish trend. One thing that would make me more skeptical of the bullish argument is that if the price came down and broke the macro resistance, that would show tremendous weakness, and then we would probably end up putting ourselves in a position to go lower, though that would be really all up to the stock market. And the S&P is actually breaking above its December high here, right? So we're making higher highs on the S&P, and the S&P is also in the same position as Bitcoin with the macro resistance, us being above it. Even if the S&P tested down, as long as we can hold the macro resistance as new support, I'm still pretty bullish, and we have a lot of room technically to move down and retest the resistance before we can truly say that the S&P is bearish again. And if we do break below the macro resistance, that's when I would actually get bearish again. I mean, right now I feel fairly confident, and I like the price action that's taking place here. Really, it's just a matter of getting volume confirmation and at least just holding the macro resistance as new support. Now, even if we do get another test to the downside, as long as we're above that, I think we're doing pretty good. But just wanted to get on here and give you guys an update based on the last video, the bullish dip video. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Smash a like, subscribe. I'll see you all in the next one.